Today is a day we should all be very happy. In honor of the birthday of the chief monk of the Thissamaharama, we spoke with him 4 months ago about how to establish this campus. The monk asked, "How long will it take?" And I replied, "Venerable Sir, we can open this in about a month." We went ahead and opened it, and today we have reached the point where we can give certificates to all of you at the IT campus located at the Thissamaharama. If you take this IT campus, there is nothing like it in all of Asia. That's why we have earned the #1 position in Asia for digital education. So today, you are fortunate, as your children will have access to something that even countries like Japan, Singapore, China, Korea, Malaysia and India do not have. Similarly, now the top scorer in the ordinary level exam in school education is studying through DP education. Even for the advanced level, the top scorer studies through DP education. However, today, all these resources are available on the handphone you hold in your hand. So give them the opportunity to study using this. But I'm not saying that going to tuition classes is bad, because the child needs to go to tuition as well. Some things might be missed in school education, and those can be covered in tuition education. But if you're sending them for tuition, make sure it's to a good place with good tuition teachers. After that, when they come home, they can solve their problems with the help of DP education. I have seen that the students who get the best results have joined DP education. Also, I want to mention that for 75 years, we have been talking about politics. During that time, there were only 10,000 students who got 9 A's in the ordinary level exams. But now, that number has increased to over 14,000. That means there has been a 40% increase since DP education was introduced. I believe this year that number will reach 16,000, which means we can achieve about a 60% increase. I usually have a goal to raise this to about 20,000 because I always work with numbers. So by working with numbers, I understand what needs to be done. When we set a target, it needs to be achieved in that way. What I'm asking from all of you, whether you're doing advanced level or ordinary level, is to go and study through DP education and see how well you understand the lessons. That's because we are always teaching how to solve a problem, not just looking at something as a problem. When we talk about school education, no matter how big or prestigious the schools are or how good their results are, when you talk to those students, they too have studied through DP education. There are 10,000 schools and that categorized into 4. There's a segment of schools known as the best. However, in the past, those were in Colombo. But now, that's not the case anymore. Today, if you take the top 20 schools, only 3 of them are in Colombo. And all 3 are girls' schools, not boys' schools. Those 3 are Devi Balika, Visakha and Musaeus College. So from the current top 20 schools, only 3 remain in Colombo. The rest are in places like Ratnapura Sivali, Anuradhapura Central College and other such locations. The top 20 schools are spread across various regions, including schools like Badulla Central College. For all of these, we have implemented smart classrooms through DP education. We were the ones who initiated this, but now some of these schools have up to 10 smart classrooms. That's where the good results are really coming from. The teaching in those schools is also based on our system. So if you talk to your school about this and develop it in that way, you can elevate your school through education. Today, on the birthday of the chief monk, we plan to open the Silicon Valley IT office. We opened the first one at the Uddakamdara Rajamavyare. Since it was opened on 2nd February 2023, today marks 11 months and 8 days. Now there are 20 kids working there today, and 5 of them are working for Canada. They work for Canada while being here. However, parents will understand this in about 3 more years. In about 6 months, those kids will buy an electric scooter. But in about 3 years, they will be commuting in a car. That's when parents will realize it's good that their child becomes a software engineer. But I don't think that's a fault of the parents. It's just that there hasn't been that kind of person in society before. I asked at that time if there was an IT office in Thissamaharama where a developer works. There wasn't. The first one is the Silicon Valley IT office at the Uddakandra Rajamahavyara. So I can't say anything like that to the parents because there's no such office in Thissamaharama. Everyone always speaks about a problem in a polished manner because it's their own problem. That's understandable. But when it comes to offering a solution, that understanding falls short. That's because there's no experience in providing a solution. If there's no experience in society, that's not your fault. The fault lies in the way we have come through. A great example is that if there isn't a software engineer in Thissamaharama who drives a car, why do you think you need to make your child a software engineer? But let me tell you something. 3 years from now, the ones driving cars and buying new cars here in Thissamaharama will be those same software engineers. They won't have learned from anywhere else, but from the DP Education IT campus. Now there are kids here who have been attending since grade 6, including the children. I think around 2,700 people have gathered here today. I know it's raining, but the entire hall is packed. That's because you have that vision, which is why you've made it here today. But there are students who have not made it here today as well. Keep that enthusiasm going. And another thing, if we take the levels we are certifying today, we can say that 100 of our projects are worth 1 million. That means the children who have completed 100 projects now have 1 million worth of knowledge in their heads. But just having that 1 million in your head isn't enough. Only when you have 2.5 million worth of knowledge will you reach the level where you can get jobs. So it doesn't matter if it's a little child who completes the whole program and prepare yourself for the job market. Sometimes this can even be done by children in grade 6. That's because grade 6 kids have learned things worth 2.5 million and they have reached the level where they can do jobs. Now there are children in grade 6 at Uddakandra Rajamahavyara who have reached that level. We can continue to teach those kids because the University of Morato has partnered with us, as well as the University of Kelaniya and the University of Rona. Together with these 3 universities, the DP Coding School has established this IT campus. Just imagine, right here, there could be 1,000 people worth 1 million each. Now we've finished teaching 1 billion worth of knowledge to Thissamaharama. This amount of valuable knowledge has now been passed on to your children. So there's no question that your children will be prosperous in the future. They are bound to become successful. Let me tell you something else you may not realize. Look at the Venerable Sangha. They're working 24 hours a day to educate your children. However, we are dedicating a portion of our lives for the benefit of these children, just like the Venerable monks. In the Jataka tales, it said that people have given their eyes, their heads, their flesh and their blood in charity. The Venerable monks have given their entire lives for us. They work 24 hours a day for the benefit of others, expecting nothing in return. Similarly, we have opened this campus without expecting anything from you. But we want to uplift this society. Even if you look at this entire district, it is an agricultural district. However, I focus mostly on Thissamaharama. Now let me give you a good example. If you bring a book close, we can read it. At that point, everyone tries to look away from the book. When we look away, we cannot see it. If I come here and start talking about Sri Lanka, you will applaud me, but you don't realize what is happening elsewhere. I'm saying that if anyone comes after this and starts talking, tell them, please don't talk about Sri Lanka. Let's talk about how to establish the Thissamaharama Divisional Secretariat Division. Because everyone comes and talks about Sri Lanka or some viral topic, and then you will clap. This has been happening for the past 75 years. Nothing else has been done. If any of you ask, we don't want anything, what can we do for our Thissamaharama Divisional Secretariat Division? But now, I want to say what needs to be done for the Thissamaharama Local Government Office. Because when we take the Thissamaharama Divisional Secretariat Office, it is an agricultural area. Now it has been raining for the past 5 months. If it has been raining for 5 months, what will happen to your income? For 5 months, it is thought to plant it today, it is thought to be planted tomorrow. What is sown is destroyed by the rain. There is no way to grow the crops. So we need to bring money from outside this area. The only way to bring money from outside is to send these kids to work. Otherwise, we can say, no, there are farming families in our area. But in the future, saying there are farming families will not work. Because the amount of land you have is limited. The amount of land will not increase. So when these kids grow up over 18 and 2 or 3 of them get married, there will be only 4 families living on that land. Consider whether 4 people can live off that land. That's not possible. Now the best example is that if we take the year 1800, which is 223 years ago, Sri Lanka had a total population of only 1.2 million. The entire country had only 1.2 million people. So when we talk about being an agricultural country, we are talking about the rice that these 1.2 million people eat. But today, taking the country's economy into account, if we look at rice cultivation, we need about 5,000 tons of rice a day to eat. Similarly, we need about 7,000 tons of vegetables a day. So if we take this rice into account, the overall economy of Sri Lanka is only 1.1%. If we bring in hybrid rice or whatever, it can only increase by 20%, which is just by 2 points. For vegetables, if we cultivate more, the price will go down, but the economy won't improve that much. Because if more vegetables come in, the price decreases, but to manage that, we can only handle about 7,000 tons. The rest we can export. The agricultural part can be broken down into 16 sectors. These include pea cultivation, rubber, coconut and other similar sectors. The total of these 16 contributes to 8% of the country's economy. So I have seen many people on YouTube, TV and in media discussions saying it would have been better if we lived like in the past. In the past, the population was only 1.2 million. I can say that during the time of the kings, it could be proportionally broke down to about 600,000 at that time. But what I'm saying is that back then, 1.2 million people lived, while today, we are living with about 20.2 million. So now, if we want to develop Thissamaharama,
The small businesses need to be nurtured.
we cannot say that this small business will fail. Why do I say that? Because the village lacks money to sustain these small businesses. When you resort to agriculture, you receive an income per season. If a clothing shop is open, that is just a temporary business. However, they need to keep it open consistently over time. So it's hard to find a shop that even has an air conditioner to open. Why? You only get money 3 times a year. So for about 2 months or even for 6 months, there is a business at a clothing shop. A restaurant doesn't have consistent business either. You can't sustain small businesses like that. Therefore, there are no businesses in Thissamaharama and you don't have money nearby to carry them out. However, the situation will get worse in another 5 years. With all these medicines, you all will live for 80 to 90 years. So think about how many more years you'll be living. Because of that, the land you have is insufficient to share with 2 or 3 of these children. When you calculate like this, it becomes clear. Now parents should estimate the years they will live and see how much land is required. Let's say we want to live for another 40 years. If we live for another 40 years, how old will my children be? They should get married when they're about 28 years. So we need to consider how we will feed them. Can we divide this land? No. Then we have a solution. Just like we told the monks, I plan to establish 6 IT campuses in the Thissamaharama division, not just any one. Then we will be able to bring about 5,000 children from Thissamaharama every year within the next 5 years. It is only after these students arrive that money will come into this village. Now to give a good example, we live in a village and if we only had money for ourselves, we would need to pay for a 3-wheeler just to go one way. For the other way, we would have to pay again, effectively doubling the fare for the 3-wheeler. But if everyone in the village has money, then 3-wheelers will come to the village. This means that some people will come home and we can easily go in any direction. So if everyone in the village has money, all costs will inevitably decrease for everyone. Now, if we want to generate money in Thissamaharama, what needs to be done? What we need to do is we need to create around 5,000 new jobs. After that, with the government responsibility, we need to have vocational training that allows us to work anywhere in the world with another 5,000 different jobs. Those 10,000 jobs and this agriculture and tourism are the best things for us. There is a kingdom in this rural area, but no tourist knows about it. There is no book or website for this. There are no lights or billboards or any promotion for it. This means there is no promotion in tourism. So how do tourists come here? In reality, this tourism aspect, along with 5,000 new jobs from IT and with vocational training for another 5,000 jobs to help agriculture, I think we can uplift Thissamaharama. Now let's take the best example. Our primary focus is digital tomorrow, 1 million jobs, and a prosperous Sri Lanka. How does this happen? Now if we take Thissamaharama, there is no system in a small shop. If there's no system, then it could be a husband and a wife, a child, or a sister, or any family member, the cashier.
But if you go to a supermarket like Kagya's,
You'll see that the cashier is entirely staffed by outsiders. Why is that? Because there is a system in place. If you say you worked at that cashier, you can't just take the money in the cash box home. But you all think, no, if I have a shop, I will trust the people around me to work at the cashier. But do these people really exist? Would you trust someone from your family to work at a shop's cashier when someone who wouldn't even take a single cent? If something happens to them, even if they're not a thief, they would still take the money. Now I have 60,000 working with me, but I don't mistrust anyone. This means I don't mistrust anyone because there's a system in place like in that Kabul supermarket. I have no problem employing outsiders. If I want, I can tell you about 1 or 2 businesses. Right now, I'm making the most expensive fabric in the world. I produce 200 kilometers of it a day. But I'm getting 40 rupees per meter. The profit margin is only 5% on fabric costing 800 rupees per meter. But I'm producing 200 kilometers of fabric. That means in a week, I can circle the entire coastline of Sri Lanka with the fabric I produce. I can go around 4 times with the fabric I make in a month. But no matter how much we produce, the profit margin ultimately comes down to just 5%. Now, when it comes to the gloves I'm making, both major airline companies in the world, namely Boeing and Airbus, operate using our gloves. We manufacture a glove called 3-Fly, which means it's designed for 3 levels of protection. Most companies in the world have gloves that provide 2 levels of protection. However, only we have a glove with 3 levels. We produce 1 million gloves a day. We make about 8 rupees profit from each glove produced. But all this work is done by outside people. It's because of this system that everything runs smoothly. Now let's talk about political parties. One political party comes in and says they have trustworthy people to include in this, but there's no system in place for that. Then after 5 years, you will see changes. After that, they will say they have good people with them and want to include them. Does anyone in your family have trustworthy people? No. All this happens because there's no system. Ask the children about what that system is and they will understand. However, they might be able to create this in the future. Creating something like this for a small shop is genuinely taught in our Kananiya campus. This ERP, known as SAP, is about creating systems. We teach that in Kalaniya. So because of that, you all should stop thinking negatively about this and consider how the country went bankrupt. In reality, the country went bankrupt because some people come in and claim they had trustworthy groups to include. There's no system there. In the end, just a few big people take on a bad reputation and go home. Then the next time, everyone else comes back, saying they have good people with them. So we need to understand that the lack of a system is the reason for this. Now look at a small shop. It won't grow big. Why is that? Because the owner of the small shop and their spouse are the only ones there. Why? Because they don't have a system. So I think we should focus on our families without overthinking big problems. How many more years do you have to live? When 10 more years pass, how old will your children be? If we can resolve these few questions, I believe we can create a happy family environment. So I kindly ask you to talk about your family, and you will understand it well. But you all also talk about the country. In that case, Thissamaharama is not relevant. The problems in the country come with you to Thissamaharama. There's nothing there. Until today, there's no book or website for the Rona kingdom. There's no guidebook for tourists. But that's not how it works if we want thousands of tourists to come here. What do we need to do? Everything is possible. These aren't tasks that will require spending a lot of money. However, there are separate tasks that do require money. Now, the Venerable Leader Monk said, I started the Mahinda IT Lab in 2012. I built the first one with my personal funds. After creating it beautifully and seeing it in that IT lab, I removed my name from the board displayed there. Why? Because I wanted to create more like that. If others had contributed, their names would have been displayed. My name was engraved in granite. I asked to remove my name from the granite because the building is that beautiful. I thought if my name were there, it would be only one.
But as I mentioned, it was from the government.
I created 1,000 more.
However, even today, when I go, I ask what the update is. They are still installing fiber optics in the lab.
They have been doing that for 11 years. They have purchased over 30 computers. They have provided 97 tablets to schools. Today, everything has been destroyed because a computer cannot last more than 10 years. By around 7 years, it becomes outdated. And in another 2 years, they will also be obsolete. So if you think about it, purchasing over 60,000 computers, building 1,000 structures and bringing in 97,000 tablets, if these are left unused, won't the countries go bankrupt? But it's easy to say that someone stole them. In reality, that is indeed theft. However, everyone is complicit in that theft. People from all levels, including officials, have been involved. Have any of them taken any action? If such actions are not taken, the country will inevitably go bankrupt. So I think I am saying for the last time, consider your family and think about living for about another 90 years. What will your child be doing in another 10 years? They will reach the age to marry. When they marry, will they get a share of my property? If I give part of my land in agriculture to my child, how will we both live? Think about all this. We have provided you with a solution. Come to the IT campus and become a software engineer. That's something I can do at my level. However, there are also things that the government can do. I have nothing more to explain about that. I will do everything I can. I believe that after today, you will see the children working at the Silicon IT office near the Uddakandra Rajamahavihara. I think in about 4 to 5 months, we can establish a DP Silicon Valley IT office here and provide jobs for about 40 to 50 children. I think that will take another 4 to 5 months. But in about 3 years, a day will come when software engineers will drive cars. After that day, I know for sure that more such projects will emerge. So I am grateful once again for the participation of these children in this main ceremony of the year during this rainy season. I understand that we can rely solely on education to bring about change, even with this rain. There are about 2,700 of us here. I reiterate to you to focus solely on your family, your village, and the local secretariat area. Ask anyone how to develop these aspects instead of wasting time with irrelevant questions and just going home feeling satisfied. All this idle talk is what brought us to this point today. Therefore, in the future, when you engage in idle chatter, think about why you are doing so. Because nothing productive comes from engaging in meaningless discussions. That itself is a waste. Once again, I am profoundly grateful for the dedication shown by those who have sacrificed their time, giving their lives for the betterment of society, like giving their eyes to the blind. I also thank the leaders for this life of sacrifice. This is why all the esteemed guests present here to help their fellow citizens, as they too are giving a part of their lives for this cause. This gathering is not about seeking anything in return. It is about our commitment to elevate your families to the next level. May everything bring you a prosperous future. I pray that everyone receives education and can reach the highest places. With these words, I conclude my remarks.